both of them live right there. Craig Crawl, Terry and Thomas and them, they live right there. You had Mr. Isaac, Isaac and Salome and Martha and Enoch and all them. They lived in that house right there.
Which one?
This beige-looking house right here.
Okay.
And then, as we tried to transcend down the block, we had people that stayed on the other end. Stoney lived in the corner house. Stoney and Jug and them lived in the corner house. That was and Angel and them. Angel was my sister-in-law. My brother had married her. And there's several different homies that lived next door to them. And then...
Oh, wait. So Angel lived here before she lived on 4th Ave?
Yeah.
Okay.
4th Avenue was the house that was the place her and my brother lived in. I'm talking about as a child growing up. I'm talking about 1975.
Okay.
They lived on that end down there, and then they transitioned back to the apartment building. That apartment building, depending on what year you're talking about. When I first moved over here, that James Fields from Black Keystone lived in there. The homie West lived in there. Who else? His brother Brian. Who else? It was several homies that lived in the apartment building. You know, it's a rental property, so you know it's a lot of transitioning in and out. You know what I mean when you rent. Behind them was Big Reese. Then we have, see these apartments right here, we connected to the apartments on the south because there's a series of apartments across the alleys right here. So all of us moved like this was one, and we used these alleys as our little corridor to be able to move around when stuff was going on, like any type of gang activity or something like that there, so we could transition and be able to move and be able and not get caught up. Now, this side of the street, right where we're standing right here, and when I moved over here, Kenny Spikes and Mario Spikes lived here. This was 2 apartment houses. They tore it down and they rebuilt it, but this is where Kenny and Mario Spikes and them lived at. That's CK Mo and Lil Tardog and people. Then I'm trying to think who lived down the block. There were just families of people that lived on the block, like non-affiliates and stuff. Then here at the park right here, where the park is at right there, I moved over here, that was houses. I had friends that lived there. Right there where the park is at on 27th and Dalton Avenue. I remember, I want to say it was 1977, might have been 78. Tom Bradley came down here when he was the mayor, and he announced that that they were going to be building a park right here, because we didn't have a park. The only park we had to go to was either Normandy or Dinker or Hoover. But if you know, Dinker was a hostile park because of the affiliations. Normandy was at a distance, and Hoover was even farther. So we didn't have any local park adjacent, so they came down and they said they were gonna break ground for the park here, and they had a big old ceremony and everything. Tom Bradley came. It was a big deal, man. And that was the beginning of the park here on 27th Street.
What year is that?
I want to say 1977, 78. I forget exactly. Because the time between, it was before 1980 when they broke ground. That was the dirt field by 1980. Now, here goes some history for you. Right here, when we was living here, right? 1982. 1982, yeah. My brother K-Ray was standing here. Now, I want y'all to listen to this here, because I want to show you how the transition in time and politics have changed so much, right? This is an interesting story right here. 1982, my brother K-Ray was standing right here in the front yard right here at our house right here on that front walk right there. Now he's standing there and he's holding, he has a photo album in his hands. It's nighttime. He has a photo album in his hands and he's flipping through the photo album and he's showing it to dude standing here with him. Now why, listen to this, homie. You know who the person was he was standing there with? Wolfie from 18th Street. Him and Wolfie from 18th Street used to come over our house. 18th Street used to literally come over our house because of the fact my brother and them went to school on, they went to Walt Whitman. My brother went to Walt Whitman. Where's that, was that Fairfax continuation?
I think so.
He went to school over there, and he went to school, him and Spike from 62's Brim, they both went to Walt Whitman. And they went to school with him. So the 18s used to come through. And you know what I mean? So the way things were with them was that we didn't have hostilities with them at that time, because in them days, black issues was black issues and Mexican issues was Mexican issues. So we didn't beef with 18 back then. So we was kind of cool with all the Mexican gangs. But at the same time though, K-Ray was standing in front of the house with Wolfie from 18th Street. And they showing him the photo album. This is 1982, man. I'm like maybe 14 going on 15, something like that there, 82. I'm about 14 going on 15, something like that. K-Ray had to be, about 14 going on 15, K-Ray had to be some like close to 17. But anyway, he's standing in front of the house with Wolfie, and they looking at the book. Dude walk up from that corner right there, 27th Street in Dalton, turns that corner on foot with a trench coat on, walks up in front of the house, right there. Come around that corner, walk right in front of the house. K-Ray sitting there with the book in his hand, and he talking to Wolfie. The dude walks right up in front of the house, and the dude walks right up to the front steps, but he didn't step up in the yard. He walked right to the front where the gate was at, where the front gate was open. And my brother K-Ray looked at him, and K-Ray looked at him and said, "What's up, blood?" And the dude pulled out a pistol, and he just opened fire, and he just unloaded the pistol. He shot about, I heard he unloaded the gun, but he hit K-Ray twice. Hit him in the hand and hit him in the leg. It was so crazy to look. Hey, trip off this. He was holding a photo book like this, right? When he got hit in his hand, look how the bullet hit him in the hand. The bullet went through this part and came out this part. Went through his hand like that there. And it came out that part and hit him in the leg, and they broke the, do I want to say the femur? What's that big bone in your leg? That the femur? Mm-hmm. But anyway, they broke that big bone in his leg. He was an apparatus behind that right there. But that was one of the crazy incidents that we had when we was over here. Also,
what happened to the guy from 18?
He didn't get hit.
Oh.
He didn't get hit.
So that was for your brother, you think?
Yeah, we was into it. We knew who it was. We knew who it was. We knew exactly who it was because we knew what was going on at that time, and there was a whole lot going on. We was here one night, 1982. We was active back then, man. We was young, man. When we were young, to be realistic with you, and I always say this here, we were not initiated, we were indoctrinated. But through that indoctrination, also the conditions of the environment, that also kind of shaped the way that we dealt with things and the way we felt, because of the fact that we would respond. If something happened, we responded. So, you hear all that in the background?
That's cool.
Okay. So anyway, 1982, we having a party. It's my little brother's birthday, if I'm not mistaken. It's my little brother's birthday, if I'm not mistaken. But it's 82, we having a party, right? Right here. Right here at the house. So I'm in the house. Party going on, everybody chilling. The homie come run out of the park. They said the homie can't run out the park. We hear shots. He had his radio, he was in the park. That's why we carrying them big ghetto blasters. And the homie had a big ghetto blaster, and he was sitting in the park. You could plug your radio up in the park back then. And he was over there listening to the radio, and the opposition, we'll say, the opposition snuck up on him, and they shot him with a shotgun. They shot him like in the back with a shotgun, nothing serious. But he got up out of the park, and they left the radio, and he left the radio. So it was a whole lot of stuff behind that night, because there was people that got hurt in the back and forth on their side, up behind that. And then we were here in the yard. And I wasn't in the yard at that time. I'm in and out of the house. There's a party going on. So I'm in and out the house. I'm all over the place. So I'm here and I'm in the house. The record, they got the music on. We on the dance floor. We chilling. We having a good time. Next thing you know, man, you just hear boom, 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 boom. You just hear gunshots. The opposition, they had came through the alleyway right here behind these buildings. They got out their cars and they literally walked through the building behind the fence on that side of the gate with guns. The yard we had, it was probably about 50, 60 people in the front yard, and they just opened fire on everybody in the front yard. Shot several people that night. If that was now, they would have called that a mass shooting. If that was something that happened now, they would have used the word mass shooting, because they shot so many people that night. I think they had to shoot about close to 10 people in our yard that day. A lot of 6 Deuce brims got shot. I remember that. They shot a lot of 6 Deuce brims got shot. Some of our homies that got shot. It was crazy. But here go one for you right here. Here go another one for you. And this is one right here. This is one of the ones right here, like when we was really, really dead in depth into it. Thanksgiving, man. We had a Thanksgiving one day, right? This is no exaggeration. We had Thanksgiving. We all sitting at the table, right? So we finna eat, right? So we inside the house with the door closed, the door locked and everything. We at the table, we finna eat. Man, we hear gunshots. Shotgun. Boom, 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 right? Man, we jump up from the table, man, and run out the door and look up. The neighbors is telling us the car just drove by and they just shot into your house. On Thanksgiving. I thought on Thanksgiving night. We sitting at the table for Thanksgiving dinner. They shot our house up on Thanksgiving. The neighbors said, that car just drove up in front of your house and they just shot your house up and this. But this was the type of stuff that was going on Dalton Avenue at that time. Because Dalton Avenue at that point in time was ground zero. See, considering the fact that we lived in that house and there were 4 of us, then we had several homies that lived in that apartment building right there. Then up and down the block, we had homies that lived up and down the block. Then we had several homies that lived in apartments across the alleyway over there. We was always present and accounted for. So, you know what I'm saying? That right there was something right there that made things kind of intricate. So when people came, they had to come and they had to be ready because there was always somebody that was here that was ready.
What elementary were you going to in the 70s and what was that like when you was a young kid?
I went to 24th. When I went to 24th, it was cool. I mean, it was cool. It wasn't I was ahead of a lot of the kids at 24th. And I'm gonna tell you why I say that. I was running with the older kids. I got older brothers, so I was running with my older brothers. So I was ahead of a lot of the kids at 24th. Like for instance, myself personally, I was into the gang thing. Shit, a lot of them was into dancing and all kind of other shit that seemed weird to me. But then at the same time, I was the gangbanger. And when I was a kid, they looked at me like I was weird because I wanted to be in a gang. You know what I'm saying? I'm the one in the school that, you know how, this the 70s. Imagine how many people wanted to be Michael Jackson. So imagine the Jerry curls and imagine the dances and imagine everybody wanted to just be who they wanted to be and express themselves how they wished, right? But at that point in time, there was no conservatism on the gang element. So, you know, at that point in time, a lot of people were just establishing themselves. But myself personally, when I went to 24th, I'm at school, man, and because it's hard for me to try to articulate that in a sense of being a child. I went to 24, I started there in 3rd grade, around 1976. We moved over here in 75, and I spent my first year I lived over here, I went to 118th Street Elementary School. But when I went to 24th, I was kind of more of a head because I hung with the older dudes. Because over here, everybody, like I say, where I lived at, considering that I lived in the house and everybody hung out in the apartments and on our porch and up and down the block, I was always around the older dudes. So I would come to school, I was on my gang thing. So I'm in school, the young dudes, the little dudes in school to me was like little dudes, but they was my age. But I was running with the big brothers and stuff like that there. I'm the one staying out late at night. You know, it's like when I tell the story about when I was 11, when I got beat up around the corner. And at that point in time, I was just I was out there. It's funny because my visions of the future back then, all I wanted to be was an OG. Because I was around, that's what I saw. When I went to 24th, my conversations and stuff were different because everybody was into sports and whatever elementary school kids is into. So I was kind of ahead of them. So when I was there, I was gangbanging. I ain't gonna say I was gangbanging because everybody was too young to understand it, but there were people there that did, because you had gang members. There was the evolution of a lot of this. And you did have gang members in elementary school, because I remember a lot of them.
Didn't Iceman go to 24th with you?
No, Iceman went to Vermont.
Okay. I know Trey K went to 24th, right?
I don't know.
Oh no, he went to Vermont also.
Yeah.
24th is over.
Really, everybody went to if you lived near Normandy or across Normandy, more than likely you went to Vermont. Mm-hmm. If you lived near Normandy or across Normandy, you went to Vermont. But 24th was interesting because of the fact that 24th exposed us to, going to 24th, it exposed me early on to the guys from the avenues. It exposed me early on to everything across the freeway. See, it goes back to just like when I always talk about 20th, the Blood Alley area. When we was hanging out over there when I was young on 20th and on the Cordova and LaSalle, on 20th and LaSalle, that area right there, and around Normandy. In those times, I was a kid, but everybody was older than me. But if you was in the area and you was like one of the cool dudes, or well, let's say if you had an older brother or something, right? They hung in that area around 20th Street, right? So we'd go on the block and everybody be on the block. I'd be the youngest one on the block, but I'm in elementary school. When I go to school in the mornings, all of the homies, the homeboys would be walking to Mount Vernon Junior High and to LA Junior High. And it would be funny because you got a group of us, right? Now, let's just say we all come in and we start out here and we walk into school, right? And as we go along, we catching up and the group starts to grow as we grow, right? But then as we move and we pass the schools, then the group gonna start to thin out because everybody gonna have to get to their schools. So I would come, and in the mornings, like, and this was something that went on for years if you lived in this area. In the mornings, we go to school. We get up and we walk to school. Now we got the group of us, the big brothers and the little brothers are all walking together. Now the little brothers are gonna get off, gonna stop, and they gonna stop at 24th, and they gonna go to school at 24th. Okay, they gonna stop and they gonna go to 24th. They gonna go to school at 24th. Then you gonna have the teenagers. You have the teenagers, let's say 13, 14, 15-year-old. They gonna walk up to Washington, and they get to 8th Avenue. They gonna get to Mount Vernon. That's their stop. And everybody else is more than likely gonna be going to Mount Vernon. I mean, not Mount, excuse me, LA High School, because those are gonna be the older kids. But we would all walk to school together. So when you saw us, this is the way that we moved. You know what I mean? But at the same time, like I said, when we were hanging on 20th Street, I was a kid back then. Because I'm talking about 1970, I'm talking about like 76, 77, 78. You know what I'm saying? But I was going to 24th at that time too. And at that time, I knew everybody who was around. It's funny because I didn't play with the kids, but I knew them. Like if you was my age, if I associated, we was cool. We didn't necessarily play because I didn't play no sports or nothing. You know what I'm saying?
Now, I did an interview with a guy. He goes by Mustafa now, co-founder of Gramercy Street Hustler. He said when he went to Mount Vernon, you was the first. He said you was the first gang member he had ever seen. He said it.
Oh, I seen that interview.
Yeah.
Oh no, he said 24th.
I'm sorry,
24th. I don't know if I remember him or not, but I know that because I was like I say when I was young. Dude, let me tell you some reality, homie. I have been associated and affiliated with this here for close to 50 years now, literally. And I ain't talking about sitting on the sideline. I'm talking about I've been in the mix all that time. You know what I'm saying? I'm talking about not talking about being an associate and not talking about trying to fit in. See, because the key thing was, in them days, we weren't I wasn't initiated into the gang. I lived in ground zero. How can I not be a part of the gang when I walk out my front door and you shooting at me? How can I not be a part of the gang when I'm walking down the street and y'all trying to jump on me? You see what I'm saying? Because of where I live at. And you know that's what afflicted a lot of people and made them join gangs. People think that it's the internal aspects of the gang that make people join gangs. It's more the external aspects too. Because you can go to a school, you can live here, you can live on 27th and Dalton right here, and you can go to school a mile away at Fauché Junior High School. And if you go to school at Fauché Junior High, which the school district, I always say, right there at 29th Street, right there, where that red sign is barely sticking from under that tree, divides our school districts up. This is what I be telling people. Come here with the camera one second. I just want you to catch this. That's the school district division right there, the dividing line right there. And we sitting here, you can practically that's about the length of a football field. Am I correct when I say that? From here to that sign right there. But when you cross that sign, that's Fauché School District. And when you go to Fauché School District, that's gonna be all Crips, that's Fauché. Now, if you live down here, they not gonna let you go to school in peace because of the fact that they gonna look at you and they gonna say, you live down there with them. You live there, you know them. You can't say I associate, because as soon as you acknowledge, they gonna start saying, oh, you won. And that's what makes a lot of people join, because now you're under pressure from the opposition just because you live in a certain space. So you don't want to fight these guys by yourself every day. You got to go to school every day. You ain't done nothing to be bothered, but just live where you live. When you come back to school every day, when you come home, they want to chase you home. They want to take your lunch money. They want to jump on you. When you get back home, you're going to see them dudes in the hood that's cool with you. And them dudes that you see in the hood that's cool with you, and you tell them what your problems are, they going to tell you, we got you. But they're gonna tell you also, when you see them dudes again after this here, them dudes gonna look at you as one of us. They're not gonna look at you like they used to. You know what I mean? So you gotta make the choice to be in or out. See, and that's it. That's the way it goes. It's not the point of always being the pressure from the guys in the neighborhood, because that's a lot of that right there is urban myth, folk tales. You know what I mean? Stuff like that. There. You know what I'm saying?
Now, when you was a kid, were you paying attention to the football teams that different streets had, like the Raymond Midgets?
No, I didn't. But I used to go up to 24th on the weekends when they played football. Everybody they play football. They used to play football on the weekends. I would go up there. I just go up there 20, because Dalton Avenue played. They had Dalton had it. I know. It might have been Dalton and LaSalle, or was it Dalton? It might have been Dalton and LaSalle, because all these little streets had football teams. I think Brighton might have had a team, because if I'm not mistaken, I think they might have played in Vermont too. But I know they played at 24th. I remember. I think Dalton had a team. If I'm not mistaken, Dalton and LaSalle was together. Because when I would go up to 24th, everybody from over here would be together. You know what I mean? But yeah, I don't remember the names of their teams, but I do remember the teams. I remember going to them on Saturday. That used to be a big deal.
I think Rocky and Cool Boy were on the Raymond.
Yeah, that sounds like their region. That's where they live at.
Yeah. Mount Vernon. Now that's Johnny Cochran.
Right.
You go from 24th to Mount Vernon.
Yeah.
That's when the gangbanging picks up, right?
I was already in it.
Yeah.
See, for everybody else, it picked up. I was already in it. See, remember something. If you remember before when I told you I was 11 years old, I was already in it. I told you how they beat me up when I was 11 years old. These were grown men. I would see for everybody else, it picked up then. For me, they were catching up. Because at Mount Vernon now, when I'm 13 years old, and I've already been associated and affiliated for the last 5 years, the guys that were in elementary school that used to be dancing, and the guys that used to want to dress and try to look nice, and the guys that was preppy and whatever they were, now they want to be a part of this right here. But I also remember this. I remember the time when you had what was called PPH. There was an era, a time, a space. It was PPH. It was Pimp, Players, Hustlers. A lot of them evolved and became something else, and they aligned themselves with different groups now and have become different kinds of gangs or whatever they become now. But in the time when they were strong, let us say 1978, I want to say, they were because there was a lot of them around. They had a lot of dudes. It wasn't just red and blue, because specifically some of these groups might have had different colored rags, but they say, hey, we ain't about the banging, we about money. So you got different colors that these guys wore. Specifically, I would say if a person made a proclamation to be a what we would say PPH, Pimp Player Hustler, they would have a white handkerchief hanging out their pocket rather than have a red one. I remember that. But they would always say, there was this argument that would take place, and I've heard it several times, gangbanging is gonna play out, that shit gonna play out, it's gonna play out, it's gonna play out. 1978, right? By 1984, all of them same dudes that was arguing that point, they was all aligned with gangs now because their groups were aligned with gangs. You see what I'm saying? So if you was a hustler, whatever kind of hustler you was, but you're a hustler on, say, let us hypothetically use an area, like use a hustler, and you're a hustler on 27th and let us say Normandy, right? In order for your group to exist on 27th and Normandy, you gotta align yourself with the major group that is there so y'all can coexist peacefully. Am I correct when I say that? Yeah. So that means if you made an alignment with this here as an alliance, then you've also took on their opposition. Man, this is what was going on, this is what happened. A lot of the same guys, I remember, because I remember a lot of these dudes that talked against the gang banging and all this other stuff, and I remember later on seeing them. And it was funny to me because of the fact that through the transition of observing this here, it wasn't the point that they changed their minds, it's the point that the politics shifted. And there wasn't any room on the board for anything extra. There was no gray area. It was red or blue. There wasn't no room for no white, wasn't no room for no green, wasn't no room for, only way you had them colors associated is if that was associated with those gangs. There was no more standalone, because you could see a person as a person by himself, and back they wore the Batman jackets, right? The windbreakers, and it would have on the back of their jackets, a lot of them, it would say such and such a hustlers. Like the dancers also did it. So you would see guys like Royal Flush dancers, The Deuce Sevens might have a windbreaker on. It might say Deuce 7 players on the back of it. The Royal Flush, they might have Royal Flush on their jackets. You might have the different several groups that you had, whether it was dancers or whatever they were. They wore those windbreakers, the Batman jackets, and they would put the letters on the jackets. But the thing about it was that you could see one person by himself and he could make a proclamation, hey man, I'm a whoopty-whoopty-whoop hustler, player, whatever. So you could stand alone. When the politics shifted and the gang thing started to get more severe, it started to squeeze. And when it started to squeeze, what it did was it squeezed all of the extra stuff out. So now the gangs is pushing up on the little hustler groups, the little friendly groups in their neighborhoods. Now y'all gotta come in, y'all gotta get in. So now you got a lot of confrontations taking place. Now you got a lot of conflicts taking place. See what I'm saying? Now you got escalation. And then at the same time, this is also at the doorstep of the inception of crack cocaine. So you're observing this here and it's starting to grow and starting to elevate and starting to snowball. So now you see the same dude who said gangbang was gonna play out in 1984, in 1978, and in 1984, now we got crack cocaine. Now, but we have control of it because the gangs had the control because the government made sure it got to the gangs. So now, that same dude that was talking about he was a hustler, now he want to be with the gang. He trying to put some red on and some blue on because he trying to get put down. Everybody out there eating, all the gang members is eating and getting money, and the dudes call themselves hustlers is starving. So now what the hustlers gonna do? They gonna get with the gangsters. Am I correct when I say that? You gonna go where they eating at. Everybody wanna win.
Yeah.
So you know what I'm saying? If your team ain't winning, you're gonna try to side up with the team that is winning. Don't nobody wanna be hungry, but that was what the landscape was because there was also that little, they don't talk about that. You had hustlers and you had like dudes that called themselves hustlers and they had dudes that called themselves players and you had the dudes that called themselves different things, lovers and all kind of crazy shit that they would have on their jackets. You literally seen guys like this. You see the dancers, like when I went to Mount Vernon, they had the Royal Flush dancers up there, right? Hey, the Royal Flush dancers at Mount Vernon, they had jackets on that said Royal Flush dancers. They had their names on them. I'm trying to think of some of the other groups. The Magnificent Zodiac dancers. The Magnificent Zodiac dancers, they would have on their jackets, Magnificent Zodiac dancers. These dudes was all pop lockers and stuff, right? And this was another part of this transition because if you hear about some of these groups that used to be gangs that were dancing groups, people don't know that. Some of these groups were dancing groups. You know what I'm saying? I remember the Sharp dancers. I remember the Playboy dancers. You know what I'm saying? I remember the red light dancers. I remember all, you know what I'm saying? I remember all of this stuff here. You know what I mean? And some of these groups have evolved and became other things since that time through the inception of the gang construct. But at the same time, it's a difference and it's a difference and it makes a difference because of the fact that when you think about it, right? We evolved so far. Now it seems like we started to, do I want to say devolve? What's the word to say we evolve and revolve backwards? Devolve. Because now it seems like we're going backwards. Back then we was hustling making money. Now I don't know what they're doing. But I can't criticize the present because of the fact that the past wasn't nothing perfect either.
Yeah. Now let me ask you, when you was living in this house, from the outside, it looks pretty big. Did everybody have like their own room? How spacious really was it?
When I lived in that house, let me tell you what the house looked like. I'm gonna give you a visual tour. Front room right here, right? Oh, I thought my phone was going off. Front room right here. My father tore down that wall. This house has 2 one-bedroom apartments and like 3.5 bedrooms upstairs, 2 kitchenettes. So he tore the wall down. So this right here, this whole 1-bedroom apartment, he tore that down and made that our living room. Then you had the whole other apartment on that side, right? Then behind them both there were kitchens, because like I say, they were 1-bedroom apartments. So behind each of them, there were kitchens behind each of those, right? So when you went upstairs, if I'm walking upstairs and I get to the top of the stairs and I turn like this and I come around the banister and I turn, my bedroom was to the left. Me and Little Eddie bedroom was to the left. Raymond and Big Eddie bedroom was to the right. So they had the bedroom right here where you could see out the window and you could look out. I had the bedroom in the back of the house. In back of my room was like a kitchenette. Was like cause they put a washer and dryer, but it had a sink. Like you could cook back there actually if you wanted to. It had the hookup for gas and stuff. But anyway, I had the view out the back window. That was, let me see. That was my room where that air conditioner is at right there. That was my brother's room right there where the bars were on the front, right there. My father had the room on the other side right here. The other room up in the front on the far side by the apartment building at the top, that was my father's room. And then in the front right here is a little extra room. It's like a little bonus room. Right here in the very front in the center at the top, that's like a little bonus room. And then I'm trying to think. Yeah, that was the house. That was the house. It was big, but it was a big house. It was a very big house. You know how you see the size of that house, and you know that that's a split level, but you know as a single level, that right there could house a couple families.
So what made you guys move out?
I was in jail, 84. I was in Camp Afflerball. I was in camp for 13 months. My father was in prison. He got caught up on, I think, a drug charge or something there. And my father was in prison. And I think my stepmother, she took him to court because they bought the house together. So I think she took him to court because she wanted half or something like that there. I was not exactly sure because the process of when everything was going on, I was in jail. So when I got out, we was moving out. You know what I mean? That was 84, 85. I think it was 84. If I'm not mistaken, it was 84, I think. Something like that.
What was that like? A house with a lot of meaning. Now you guys are moving out.
I don't know, it was different. Well, I was just getting out of jail, so I hadn't been in the house. Like I say, I had been in jail 13 months. So my state of mind, I was in transition anyway, because I'm just now coming back into the world. So everything that was going on in the world was already going on before I got back to it. So you know what I mean? I didn't have an understanding of what was even taking place. I didn't understand law. I didn't understand community property and divorces and all that type of stuff there. So I had no understanding of the fact of how things were going. But my first mind was I felt that the house was taken. I didn't have an understanding of the fact that it was like a mutual property thing because of husband and wife. So it was something different. You know what I mean? It was a downsize. That's what I call it. It was a downsize. Because as big as that house is right there, I haven't moved to nothing else that big. Well, I ain't gonna say that. Yeah, no, I ain't gonna say, yeah, I'm gonna say that. I ain't lived in nothing else that big since I lived in that house.
Yeah. So when you was in camp, that would have been like 11th or 12th grade for you? You missed some of high school?
I went to camp 1983. I got out in 1984. I went to camp I got arrested on my 16th birthday for attempted murder. Without going into a bunch of crazy details, I got a phone call on my birthday, and it was the police, and the police was like, it was LAPD, it was LAPD. I didn't even understand. Back in them days, I thought it was cool making all that police contact and shit. And I'm gonna be real, and I stayed in so much trouble, I didn't know what they wanted with me. So the police called me, it was my birthday, and the police called me on the phone. And I'm talking to him, and the officer says, he asked me, he said, "It's Ronald?" I was like, "Yeah, it's Ronald." He said, "Yeah, man, this is Officer such and such, we need to talk to you." So I'm like, what's this about? Because I had so much stuff going on. I had a case where I got caught with a knife, I got caught writing on some walls, I got all kind of little petty juvenile delinquent cases, I'll say. So they said, "Yeah, man, we need to talk to you, this and this and this." So I'm not thinking nothing of it because I can't think of nothing that's going on anytime in the near future or the present past. So they say, "Come down to I said, "Well, I can't come down to the police station today. It's my birthday." It was my 16th birthday. I remember this here. I had just turned 16. And I said, "I can't come down today. It's my birthday." They said, okay, well, can you come tomorrow? I said, yeah, I'll come tomorrow. So I showed up tomorrow, the following day, me and K-Ray. Me and K-Ray went to the police station. So they said, come down something like, I want to say like 8:45 or something like that there. And we was sitting in the lobby. And this was on, now I'm gonna show you old school. Watch this on me, and you the gang expert. You know where I went to?
Southwest?
Butler. West LA, the original crash. You know the original crash was in West LA, right?
Yeah.
That's where I went to. That's where I went to, because there wasn't no crash. All these other crash units weren't even here.
Yeah.
We talking about like 83. So anyway, they asked me to come down. I go down and I'm talking to them, right? So when I go down and I'm speaking, I go down, me and K-Ray go. Me and K-Ray sitting up in here in the lobby and we waiting. So the officer come and he said, yeah, somebody be with you in a minute. So I said, okay. So I told K-Ray, I said, man, if they don't come out here in the next 15 minutes, we out of here. About 10 minutes later, officer come out. He said, yeah, Ronald, he come get me. And I said, well, what's this about? Because I'm thinking, wait, what's this about? Is this about when y'all caught me writing on the walls on butt long? Is this about when y'all caught me with the knife? Or I had so many little, like I said, I had so many little petty misdemeanors going, I didn't even know what they had me for. So the officer walks me into the back. He comes out and gets me and calls my name right before we leave. He walks me into the back. And I'm like talking, like walking in front of him. And I said, yeah, man, this and this and this. We talking. I'm trying to find out what am I here for. The officer says, you don't know what you're here for? I said, no. He said, you really don't know what you're here for? I said, no. He said, there was a shooting and the victim was a Crip. I ain't gonna say what kind of Crip. But it was a shooting and the victim was a Crip and you was identified as the gunman. So then next thing I know, I'm in handcuffs. At this point, you know how it go. You know how the gaffle game go. You know once you get into that back of that police station, they already got a plan. I don't know what happened. I'm in handcuffs. Next thing I know, and I'm in a cage somewhere. So now I'm sitting there like, oh. But all in all, what happened was that I was identified in the shooting up here. It was an event, or how do I want to say? Not an event. It was how do I say a place where everybody gathers all the time? Like if I don't want to say this place. It was a social space where everybody gathered at on a regular basis. And where they gathered at, where a lot of Crips gathered at. And we went up there and it was a situation where I'm gonna say allegedly, there was a car that drove through there and there was some shooting that went on and a bunch of shooting and somebody got shot. And somebody said that it was Mad Ronald from Rollin 20s. I don't know who, what. I just know they said it was Mad Ronald from Rollin 20s. I don't know. Disclaimer. But
did you find out if a Crip ID'd you or a civilian ID'd you?
A Crip ID'd me. Several of them ID'd me. Several ID'd me. So you know what I mean. So
what was court like for that case?
This is interesting. Okay, the case said to be had taken place around, let us say April of 1983, right? When I was 15 years old, right? They waited till August of 1983 to arrest me. You know why they did that?
So you could be 16?
They waited because the law had just been passed. 16 years old, you could be tried as an adult. So they wanted to try me as an adult. Their objective was to try me as an adult. So this is what they wanted to do. They wanted to send me to youth authority for 3 years, and this is what they was talking about at the time, and that was the conversation. And at first it wasn't looking too good. But then something happened. It was funny because I used to come into the courtroom and the courtroom would be full of them. And I go into the courtroom, man, and I'd be full of them, and they wasn't even talking about nothing. It was looking bad at that point, right? And they talking 3 years, California Youth Authority, I'm going through whatever's going on because I'm in the juvenile hall system, and I'm also conflicting with the people from the community where the shooting took place at. So anyway, when I started coming to court, and I would go to court and I would just see them. So I got to trial, and something happened. I don't know what took place, but something happened, and my lawyer could not defend me, and there was a conflict of interest. I don't know I think the lawyer defended the victim somewhere in another case or something of that nature, or something like that, but it was a conflict of interest, and they had to get me a state-appointed attorney. And they got me an attorney. It was a woman I never will forget. I never will forget her. I forgot her name, but I never will forget her. Because that lady I remember when I first was arrested and I talked with my public defender and I said, man, can I go, when can I go home? And he said, man, it ain't looking too good, man. I don't think you're gonna be going home no time soon. Just the way he was talking, right? When I got the state appointed attorney, it was a woman, man. And it was crazy because I'm sitting up in the thing, I'm in the court where we talk to the lawyer at, like in the tank. So I'm sitting in the tank and the lawyer comes into the tank, and this is my first time meeting her, right? This is my first time meeting her. So this was my first time meeting her. So when she came in the tank, she looked and she said, oh my gosh, you're just a baby. What are you doing in jail? We're gonna see, first thing she said, we're gonna get you out of here. This. She worked it out. By the time I went to court, she had already talked to my daddy and talked to everybody, and they didn't have it set up. Well, they didn't have me. They already made arrangements for me to get out of jail. I didn't even know. I got out that night and fought and was on the streets. There was on the something going on nearby, huh? There's something going on real close. But on the streets, they were making arrangements.
That's the media.
I know. That's what I said. There's something going on real close. That camera got to have range. Am I correct? Hey, they got to swing that thing where that camera can see what's going on there. But anyway, they had it so worked out already. By the time I got to court, the lawyer had got me out of jail, got me sent home. So now I'm fighting the case on the streets. All in all, I ended up taking a deal. They wanted to give me, for the shooting, they wanted to give me 3 years in California Youth 3. But what I did was, they offered me a deal because, like I said, I had a case where I got caught with a knife and it was in my pocket. It was a concealed weapon. So what they did was, because the witnesses stopped coming to court, and what they did was they offered me a deal. They said, you can go to probation camp. I went to camp, and they said I went to a probation camp, and I was there for like 9 months. I was a long-term camp, I think it was. I was supposed to do 9 months. I ended up doing 13 months, something like that. That was trouble. You know how that goes. You know, you get in drama, trouble. You know it follows us. You know what I mean? And that's part of the game. But anyway, I ended up doing about 13 months there and getting back out. And it was interesting. It was interesting because I'm gonna tell you what was interesting when I got back out of there. It was interesting when I got back out of there because when I got back out of there in 1984, crack cocaine was alive. And it wasn't here when I left. It wasn't visual. It wasn't something that you saw. It was something that I might have whispered to somebody and they gave me some money or something, or passed them some money for something, something like that, but it wasn't visual. When I came back in 1984, the streets was wide open air drug markets. This was like New Jack City. Now, I don't mean to say this like this street, but I'm just saying Los Angeles itself, this was wide open, and it was a whole nother angle, a whole nother range, man. When I came back, I had my mind still set like in the primitive means of gangbanging the way we was doing it before. Cause to be real with you, we gangbang broke. To me, what I say is we gangbang broke. When I say we gangbang broke, what I mean by that is that we didn't finance it. We just acted on it when it happened. And whatever we had is whatever we used. We were conflicting with people that had a little money, so they had greater options when it came to warfare. So we had to step our game up. So over the course of time, we had to get in the game too. So we had to get our money up because of the fact that you can't fight an AK-47 with a switchblade. You see what I'm saying? You can't fight a Uzi with a zip gun. So you know what I'm saying? Everybody had to step their game up. So you know how that went. That was the money, and that was what was happening all over Los Angeles. It wasn't just here. The money caused a great escalation, and it caused a great deal of, how do I say? It caused a great, we didn't understand in the beginning because there were no crackheads. So it caused a great deal of strife in the black community. But there were no crackheads, so we didn't understand. We ourselves, basically, we were just trying to make money. That's all we was trying to do, survive, live, just trying to do what we do. put gas in the car, put food on the table. Sometimes it's time. Sometimes we trying to floss, go to the swap meet, go out, have a good time, meet girls, do whatever we do. But whatever it did, it needed money to be done. So all in all, from that concept of things and from that basis of what I'm saying to you, it was like money became intermingled into the game now. This is when I say that government agitation happened, when the United States government started pushing all that cocaine up into Los Angeles. And at that point in time, you started seeing the whole world. I'm coming back and I'm seeing dudes. I'm 16 years old when I came back. I turned 17 about a month after I got out, but I'm 16 years old when I come back. I'm seeing 16-year-old dudes. That 16-year-old dudes is from different gangs that I'm from, because I was going to school on the east side. I was going to Jefferson High School. I'm going to school on the bottoms. I'm seeing dudes over here that I was in camp with or in juvenile hall that might have been younger than me. But these dudes is pulling up in brand new cars. These dudes is pulling, I'm gonna tell you what they was driving. Back then when I came out of camp, they was driving Nissan trucks. Them Nissan trucks was popular. Everybody had them. And that is when they came with that term, the killer Daytons. Because the Nissan trucks, they was jacking them for the Daytons and they was killing them over them Daytons, because the Daytons was valued at somewhere around $5,000 a set. So anybody had a set of Daytons, you can go get some money because of the fact that, let us say for instance, you got a set of Daytons, they valued at 5 G's. I can easily take them to my homeboy that got the spot down the way that's getting all the money and say, man, give me 3,000 real quick. Take these. You just saved 2,000, you just put 3 in my pocket. Just that simple. So you know what I mean? They was taking Daytons back then and they was killing over them Daytons, because Daytons could be liquidated fast and you can get money immediately. But all in all, the thing about it was that there were young guys. I'm coming out of camp at 16 years old. I'm seeing guys younger than me. These trucks they driving, these Nissan trucks, I think they coming off the lot. What if you said the Nissan truck was coming off the lot at around 40,000?
Shit, I don't even remember.
Depending if it was a king cab or not, huh? Because remember they said the king cabs too? So it depended on if it was a king cab or not.
I just remember Day Days, the first one I seen.
Yeah. But that's what I'm saying. Yeah. That's what I'm saying. These young dudes driving these cars like this here. And I'm talking about, and they wasn't no old Nissan trucks. You had a Nissan truck that had to be brand new. So considering we in 1984, 85, you driving an 84 Nissan truck. So you think you coming off the lot at around what, 40 G's? Because you figure the money they was making, they coming out with fully equipped with everything.
So when you came home from camp, where'd you move to since you guys were moving out of this house?
Silver Lake. I lived in Silver Lake. I went to for a very, 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 very brief moment. I went to John Marshall High School. Very interesting encounter in John Marshall High School. I didn't know they had gang. I didn't know back then there was a black gang out there. I didn't know that. I was going to school. I was living off of Sunset Boulevard by what's my cross street? Because I lived off of Sunset and what I want to say, like Mitchell Torina or something like that there. I lived in Silver Lake, but off Sunset. Now this was interesting to me. I didn't know there was a group down there called the La Mirada Hustlers. And the La Mirada Hustlers was Crips. I didn't know this. I'm in Hollywood. That's East Hollywood. So I'm like going to school and I'm like, I'm from South Central, West Adams. I'm used to this, I'm used to how we do. I'm like 16, 17, I'm like 16. So I'm fully active, I'm indoctrinated, I'm used to this LA drama. I'm going to school out there, man, and I'm in Hollywood. I said, cool, I'm going to school in Hollywood. I just got out of camp. I don't want to get in no trouble. I ain't worried about it. I'm finna get my education. I'm finna do something. Man, I'm going to school. I swear to you, and this is how I'm thinking my first day of school, right? I'm walking to school, my first day of school. I am walking down Hyperion. You know Hyperion is out on Sunset? I'm walking down Hyperion. Look, this is my first day of school. In my mind, I'm outside of this. In my mind, I'm way outside this here. I'm in Hollywood. I'm not expecting none of this. I'm finna go to school. I'm finna do better than I ever done, be more than I ever was. I'm finna go and get good grades. I ain't gotta worry about no gangs, no drama. Man, I'm walking to school, walking down Hyperion, and go on my way to school, walk past a group of dudes that's standing around out here to going to the school. Man, I walk past these I had a red sweatshirt on and I'm walking to school. I'm walking past and the motherfucker look at me and say, "What's up, cuz?" That fucked my whole frame of thought up because I wasn't in that state of mind. I'm back in my LA now I'm on my South Central state of mind. Now I'm at this motherfucker going crazy. We out there. I got into a fight on campus and all kind of shit. Cause these dudes all went. It's King and it's Marshall. King is the junior high, and that's at Hyperion, like right when you come down Sunset. And John Marshall was way down the way. I'm trying to think, 'cause John Marshall was way up in there. But you wouldn't think that there were gangs down there. You wouldn't even think there were black people down there. That's what shocked me. It shocked me to see all the black people down there. I was at John Marshall though. It was crazy because when I say they was out there, listen to this. This is what I mean when I say they were out there. They had a group. I'm talking about. Now think about this. I'm walking down Hyperion off of Sunset, right? I am walking north, going in. Like toward Griffith Park, going that way. I'm walking this way. I'm my mind is somewhere else. I ain't even tripping. I think I had a folder in my hand or something. I'm walking to school. Man, my mind, I said, well, this is the opportunity I've been waiting for, man. I got a chance. You know what I mean? I just got out of jail. I don't want to go back. Man, my dude called me cuz, and I swear that right there, I forgot everything I was thinking when he said that, right? But it tripped me out because I'm way out here. And this was what was a trip. You had Star King, I think it's called Star King Junior High. And that's like when you first, this is the same way that I said how we used to walk to school. Them dudes, I would come out and I walk down Sunset. So I'll hit Hyperion. And I'm walking down Hyperion, but I would see them around the donut shop or somewhere down there, like where like the early morning eat spot or whatever. I see them around them areas. But that spot would be like near Sunset or Virgil down that way, right? So they would transition in a group. Then you had the group, like the little brothers that went to the junior high. Then you had the high school dudes. Say like when I walk to school, I see the whole group of them, right? So when I'm walking, I'm gonna watch the group and I'm gonna watch the smaller group, the smaller part of the group gonna fall off. While the older dudes are still going to school. They still walking. But it was interesting because there was a lot of these dudes. I was trying to figure out where they came from, but it was a group called La Mirada Hustlers out there. I don't even know if that's still around, but it was a trip to me. But that's where I ended up after I left here.
Okay. Now, you mentioned Stoney lived at the end.
Yeah.
Since he's one of the first, the fallen soldiers from this neighborhood, can you just, before we wrap up, can you just say a few words about Stoney, since you lived on the same street with him and he's one of the first ones?
Stoney was OG. See, it's a difference from those like that because all of us and all of our families are tight. See, okay, that like Stoney family. Stoney family, my family. My brother, Crazy B, had married Stoney's sister Angel. We have nephews and nieces and stuff in common. And all of our families have always been close to this very day. We all, those that are still around, we all still tight. You know what I mean? Stoney was a solid homie. Stoney was a really, 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 really solid homie. And he was a homie that was with the business. I done been at parties with Stoney. I done seen Stoney set it off. I done seen Stoney in action. And Stoney was nothing to mess with. He was a real solid dude, and he was about his business. And Stoney loved them Chevys. I remember he had that prime 67 Chevy. He had a prime 67 Chevy. And then I remember when Lil Crazy had the 66, and he'd been in 66. He loved them Chevys, man. Stoney was the one that, because see, he was one of the ones when I was a kid that I looked up to because of dirt biking. We all rode dirt bikes, BMXs, right? And Stoney was good on the BMX. Stoney could hop on cars. Stoney could hop. Stoney could really hop. He was good on the BMX. And when I was a kid, that's something I used to look up to because I used to ride BMX bikes. But Stoney was good. He was good on the bike. That's something I remember about him because everybody wanted to hang around Stoney because he always had a tight ass dirt bike and he could ride. He could hop. We used to go to Hollywood back then. We used to go to Hollywood back then. Everybody, when I was a kid, right, I hit the corner right there by Stoney House, it'll be a bunch of dirt bikes, BMXs, Mongooses, Webcos, Astrabulas, Red Lines, you name it. It'll be a group, everybody out there dirt bikes, just BMXs. everybody, because this is what we were doing. This is our childhood. This is what we did. This is like 50 years ago. So you hit that corner and they'll be out there working on bikes and fixing bikes, and somebody might be stealing a bike or stripping a bike or whatever. You would just see all the bikes right there. All of us, all up and down the block, this is all we did. You come down, everybody hopped and wheelied and did whatever they did on the concrete. But Stoney was solid though. When Stoney was around, Stoney was with the business, man. Stoney was with it, non-hesitant, always in it. Everybody knew who he was, and he was with it. He was cool. He was cool with you if you was cool with him. If you wasn't, you wasn't. But he was a real solid dude. He was really solid, man. That's somebody right there, man. That when he died, that right there, that one kind of hurt, because I remember when I was a little kid, and I like me, my memories of him don't necessarily fall within the realm of gangbanging. Because like I say, my admiration for Stoney when I was a kid was that he went riding that bike. Stoney used to hop. He used to hop bus stops, hop on cars, trucks. He could ride that dirt bike. He could wheelie. He could do, you know what I'm saying? So I'm a little boy. I want to learn this. I want to learn. My brother B used to do all that. My brother Crazy B used to ride like that too. You know what I mean? I used to look up to him for the way he rolled, because I wanted to learn how to ride a bike like that too. You know what I mean? Maybe that's a little something outside the gang thing right there. There's another level of admiration. I guess that was a positive influence right there.
Okay, and one more before we go. Jimbo used to live right here, huh?
Yeah, it was 2 apartment houses right there. Him and KK. Jimbo and KK lived over here. Kenny Spikes lived over here. Mario Spikes. This was CK Mo and them came from. CK Mo and them, their family come from over here. Little Tall Dog family come from over here. Quite a few others.
What was it like when he was young?
Who?
Jimbo and his brother KK.
Jimbo was solid, man. Jimbo was another one. He was solid. I was around Jimbo, man, forever. When I was a little boy, I came out the house. My first house party I ever went to, Jimbo took me to the house party. When I was a little boy, I remember Tony Howard, Westside Tone, and Jimbo. And I remember Tony walked me to school. Like I said, how we used to walk to school. And Tony walked me to school, right? I used to see Tony on Sugar Hill, because they all lived over there across Adams. I used to see Tony on Sugar Hill when I in the mornings, right? Because I leave school, you know how you leave school at the same time. I guess he must have left because he lived on 25th. So Tony lived on 25th. And I would always see him right here. And Tony would be going to, like, I think, LA High School, Mount Vernon. And Tony would walk me to 24th and continue on to on the school, right? So it was a house party. The house party was on 20th Street, 20th and LaSalle. So we went to the house party. No, we were finna go to the house party. So Tony had popped up. Tony was there. So Tony and Jimbo and whoever else it was, Jimbo and KK and whoever else it was of us that was there. And we were there, and Tony looked at Jimbo and said, "Why you got this little boy here?" I was 8 years old. I'm 8 years old. Look, I'm 8 years old. Tony looked at Jimbo and said, "Why you got this little boy here with us?" Jimbo looked at Tony and said, "He ain't no little boy, he 12 years old." He said he's 11 or 12, he said some shit like that there, right? So Tony looked at him and he says, "No, he not." He said, "No, he not." He said, "I know, because I did." He said something like he's 12 years old, he go to Mount Vernon, that's what he said. He said, "No, he not, because I know for a fact, 'cause I just walked him to 24th yesterday." He said, "That's Eddie and Raymond's little brother." You know what I mean? But we all went to the house party, but it was interesting because that was my first house party. That was one of the things, my first level of indoctrination into the urban subculture of this community, because that was my first exposure to the, how do I say that? I ain't never been in a room full of people when all the energy was moving in one direction and we all felt one thing until then. So it was a campaign, you know what I mean? The neighborhood was what it was, you know what I mean? It was everybody was in the neighborhood. There's a whole nother era, a whole nother generation, a whole nother demographic, a whole nother geographical region. Because imagine this, we're on 20th, we're on Washington and Harvard, somewhere like Harvard, LaSalle or something like that there. See what I'm saying? So that was my first level of indoctrination. And I would say that was my first time I ever had that, you know how like you go to the party and the homies how they be at the party, and you know how you feel the love when you're in a party and everybody oh yeah, that's the homie, you know. That was my first time ever experiencing that right there, and as a homie. You see what I'm saying? That was like I said, that was 76. And that was 76 right there. You know what I mean? It was euphoric. It was euphoric to me realistically because I was a little kid, 8 years old, right? Now, check this one out. I'm a kid, 8 years old. I go to 24th Street Elementary School. It's 12, 1 o'clock in the morning. All my classmates are asleep. I'm at the house party. You see what I'm saying? All my classmates, they got to get up in the morning and go to church or whatever they got to go to. I'm at the house party. Shit, I'm gonna go home. When I leave here, I'm going home and go to sleep, and I ain't got, you know what I mean? I'm living like the big kids is living.
Yeah.
I'm out here with the big kids. That's when Washington skating ring was up there. And all I wanted to do was just stay out late and go to the skating ring and the house parties. All I want to do to be real, and I'm gonna give you some reality. Watch this. And I'm gonna push some numbers. I'm gonna push the generations just to show you this. All I wanted to do was stay out late and listen to funk music, Parliament Funkadelic. The music was so intoxicating that when you go into a house party or something, it just seemed as if the sounds and the illusions, and especially back then they had strobe lights. So it seemed as if you were intoxicated by that. So imagine that, the music itself, and then at the same time, we all vibing on one vibe, moving in one direction. And we are all what we are, you know what I mean? And it's crazy because I didn't understand, I had my recollection of neighborhood came from that. Because I started seeing all this. And ain't none of these people around. Hey, the people that was in that room today, then ain't none of them here today. None of them. And I was in that was 1976. That's crazy because history is something else. My final thoughts, man. If I was to reflect on my memories of living in this house, I'm gonna reflect on the gentrification taking place in this community. If I'm reflecting, I'm gonna reflect on the gentrification that's taking place in this community. That's what I'm reflecting on. Because we bought that house around 1975 for like 40,000. Right now, I think that house is valued on the market or a little somewhere in the area about $1.5 million or something of that nature. When I moved in this community was something like 90% black, to where right now, I think the black population here got to be somewhere in the area about maybe what, 12%? Something like that there. So at the same time, also, when I lived here, a lot of my neighbors, a lot of the residents, a lot of my friends, they owned property. They were black people that owned real estate. So we had equity. We ourselves, we had something worth something. To where over the course of time, and I believe it was a government plan, because I believe crack also played a part, but I believe it was implemented into the plan. Because I always say the plan, because it seemed like, even though it seemed like we looking successful, it's always meant for it to fall apart somewhere through here. But at the same time, as I view that, I look at crack because I look at all of the people who were passed down property, real estate, and land. At the same time, they got hooked on crack, and then they relinquished their rights of all responsibilities to what they were given, whether that by that being these big homes over here. Because I remember a lot of these were dope houses, and I remember when we were sitting in them dope houses, and I wish I would have had the sense then to buy some of this property. But then at the same time, I look at the people whose houses they were, and as I look at it, and I look at how the banks foreclosed and they took all of the property from these people. Now, black people don't own anything here. Gentrification is kicked in. USC is buying out this region of the city. And I ain't mad at them because they're doing it. But what we need to do as a people collectively is that we ourselves need to learn financial literacy. We need to educate ourselves. We need to understand what we need to survive as a people, because this ain't the old days I was talking about when we was living on Dalton Avenue and everybody was just doing what they was doing. If we gotta have money to be able to fight and survive. Nowadays, when you look at Los Angeles and you look at the real estate, you see that through gentrification, they want this property back. That means if they want that property back, they want us out of here. Yeah. If they want us out of here, that means by any means. So that means they will change laws. And they will do whatever they gotta do in order to get us out of here. The one thing about all this here is the only one that's gonna be standing is the one that got the most money. So all in all, what we need to be doing is we need to come into a situation of a think tank with our academics, with our economists, with everybody and anybody that has a sense of literacy and understanding, not how to make money, but how to keep it. You know what I mean? How to grow it, how to invest it, how to make it something we can have multi-generational wealth in our own families. These are the things that we need to be working on, because the streets ain't shit because we don't own them. And we don't own them. And if you don't believe that, look around you. Gentrification is kicking in all around you. I bet you look up and down your block. Look how many people don't look like you.
And then think about how many people did look like you when you first moved in.